Hello, good morning. This is Mike Weller with Costerisan, and welcome to the year-end payroll and changes for 2019 webcast. But yes, we have a few things that have changed, and we'll note, and we'll get ready for the year-end. The first thing I want to talk about is the year-end checklist, and we need to review the holiday processing schedule. With Christmas and New Year's Day on Tuesday, adds a little bit more challenges. It looks like it's shortening up the work week, and when you need to have the payroll scheduled if you've got a pay date for either of those Fridays. And so need to kind of look and plan accordingly, especially when direct deposits have to be made and tax payments. You also need to identify the last payroll of 2018 and the first payroll of 2019, so you can determine when tax tables need to be updated and when you need to record your taxable fringe benefits or other payroll adjustments for 2018. You need to look at these payroll adjustments, such as group term life insurance, personal use of company cars, any year-to-date corrections, any manual payroll checks that maybe need to be entered, and consider also third-party sick pay reporting. So these adjustments should occur prior to the last regular payroll so that the Social Security Medicare tax can be withheld, and then the appropriate tax deposits can be paid. You also need to remember to report the employer health savings account contributions, and those need to be reported on the W-2s, as well as the cost of any employer health coverage amounts. So we'll cover those a little bit later as well. Hopefully you've ordered your forms by now and you have those on site. I have, and I have the forms ready to go. You want to make sure that you have the correct forms. Open up your boxes, look and make sure that they have the correct dates, and you're ready to go. You also want to look at test printing the forms, make sure things are lining up and things are going in the right boxes. So on the next page, on page 3, just a reminder about the state minimum wage. That has been going up the last several years, and for January 1st, 2019, it is still yet to be determined. In my fine print here, it's going to be determined every January. It's going to be determined by February 1st of the year that it's calculated, and the adjusted rate will be effective beginning April 1st. So you're going to want to make a note on your calendar and to watch the state of Michigan and find out what the change in the state minimum wage will be, if that impacts you. And so that'll be determined here sometime here in January and will be effective April 1st. The reporting for Healthcare Act, just a reminder that the cost of coverage for an employer-sponsored group health plan does need to go in box 12 code DD. That has been the issue for 2017 and 2016, so that's nothing new. So that's just a reminder to include both the employer paid and the employee paid premiums in box 12 code DD. The information is for informational reporting purposes only, and that is only required if you're filing more than 250 W-2s. So that's we're waiting for some changes there, but for right now, if you have more than 250 W-2s, then you need to report the cost of health insurance. With the PATH Act, just a reminder there as well that the deadline for filing W-2s has been moved up. It was moved up for the federal last year, and so just a reminder that the W-2s to the employees and W-2s to the employers need to be filed before January 31st. The state of Michigan as well has moved the date up finally, and so W-2s to the state of Michigan are due January 31st as well. So make sure you make a note of that. There are some instructions on the Michigan website, and the Form 5081 that usually accompanies those W-2s, that is still due February 28th for the sales and use tax part of that, but the W-2s do need to be filed by January 31st, so make sure you make a note of that. On page 4 are some of the annual changes that we need to consider. We know for 2018 that the Social Security wage base is $128,400, and for 2019 that's going to increase to $132,900. The Medicare rate is the wage amount is still unlimited, and the rate still is at 1.45%, and you still have the additional employee Medicare tax on wages over $200,000 at 0.9%. So that's still the same for 2018-2019. The 401k, 403b amounts have increased for 2019 by $500. So for 2018, it's going to be $18,500. For 2019, that is $19,000. The catch-up of age 50 or over still stays the same at $6,000. The 408 Simple plan, that has increased $500 as well. So for 2018, it's $12,500. For 2019, that's $13,000. The catch-up of age 50 or over stays at the $3,000. The automobile rate hasn't come out yet for 2019, so we're still looking for that information to be updated for 2019. One other item that is not on this page but is a limit is the health savings account contribution limit, the family amount for 2018. Some of you might have this, some of you might not, but the IRS took and said that the rate was going to be $6,900 for the family health savings account contribution limit. And then during January, they took and they changed that amount to be $6,850 because they had calculated that incorrectly. Now, many employers had already funded the health savings account at the $6,900 amount, and to make the changes and such to correct it to $6,850 for that $50 change was quite problematic. And so IRS then went ahead and said that we will let that stay at $6,900. And so the 2018 contribution limit for health savings accounts is allowed at $6,900. So if that health savings account amount affects you, take a look at that. Okay, the next page, page 5, is just basically internet websites and where you can get information, and many of you have that information already. Page 6 and 7 is just a reminder about publication 15. This publication really covers who are employees, talks about supplemental wages, talks about depositing taxes, penalties, and due dates. Also talks about your federal employment tax and some of the changes there. One thing to note is with the withholding tax tables, there's been some changes there, and with the personal allowance going away from the tax return, the tax tables are kind of adjusted for that, but the IRS is really is suggesting that employees go to the IRS withholding tax calculator online to determine if they have enough taxes being withheld. We'll talk about the W-4 for 2019 coming up. They're really suggesting that the tax calculator be used to help calculate the tax that need to be withheld. The other reminder is that the moving expense reimbursement has been suspended for 2018 and for the next 10 years. So that moving expense reimbursement is going to be taxable then if the company offers that, unless you are a member of the U.S. Armed Forces. So then it's still for those active members for U.S. Armed Forces, moving expense reimbursement is still allowed. The next publication, just to remind you of, is Publication 15A. Publication 15A covers your employee independent contractors. It's really important to make sure that you have the correct documentation for independent contractors. They're really the IRS and Department of Labor and unemployment agencies are all trying to make sure that you're classifying employees and independent contractors correctly. So make sure that you read through that information and you have the correct documentation for independent contractors, so that you make sure that's all correct and that you don't have to take and move independent contractors to employees and deal with all the penalties and all the tax issues regarding that. Publication 15A also covers your non-profit organizations, employees of exempt organizations. Also covers the rules for the religious organizations, ministers. Also talks about sick pay reporting, and also talks about your retirement plans that you have. So it's a very good publication to be familiar with and to review that information if that affects you. The next publication on pages 10 and 11 is just a reminder for publication 15B. This is for your tax guide to fringe benefits. What are the taxable fringe benefits and how do they need to be reported on the W-2? Some do taxable fringe benefits to consider are your dependent care assistance, group term life insurance coverage, health savings accounts, and the personal use or the reporting of taxable automobile use and personal automobile use there in the cents per mile and such. So they have removed the moving expense reimbursement. That has been removed from the publication. So just a reminder to look to that. And so from for January 2018 to January 2026, that's when that is the moving expenses suspended. Okay, you also want to look in the publication regarding the changes for meals and some transportation commuting benefits there in this section as well. The next couple pages, there's the page 12 and 13 are just a reminder to do payroll tax reconciliation forms. These are extremely helpful in making sure that for example, your 4 quarterly 941 returns match with your totals on your W-2 forms. So it also helps if you look at your quarterly unemployment returns and your state withholding, and if you have city withholding, to kind of just reconcile and make sure that all the different forms that have been filed do match up with your W-2 totals. This form on page 13 is an Excel worksheet, so if you would like a copy of this, I'd be happy to email it to you. And again, you can just email me at mweller@mainercpa.com and ask for this Excel template, and I can provide you with that template. We use it in our accounting outsources department, and it really helps to prevent notices that you'd receive 3 years from now that say your 941 returns do not match your W-2. So it's a good exercise to go through and to really understand and reconcile the payroll information that you do report on your W-2s with your payroll earnings reports. The next page, on page 14, is the reporting and taxation of fringe benefits. The reporting of fringe benefits, you can actually choose to have your benefit year end in October or end in November. That way you can get the information in December to then properly include in payroll and include on the W-2s. So you can, that's a suggestion that I have and works really well. If we have for example, a calendar year that for fringe benefits ends in November, and to get the personal use of automobile mileage, for example, and everything works quite well if you do that. There's for 2018, the supplemental tax rates have been lowered. So instead of the 25% for the federal supplemental tax rate, is now 22%. And the state of Michigan supplemental tax rate is at 4.25% for 2018. Yep, and so the next page is your group term life insurance premium rates table. This table is a monthly table, and so it's the cost per 1,000 of group term life insurance for 1 month. The employee's age is determined as of the last day of the calendar year, and so you would need to calculate an amount to include on the W-2 for any group term life insurance that the employer provides to the employee in excess of $50,000. So this is reported on the W-2 as a taxable amount, and it is recorded in box 12, code C on the W-2. Okay, the next page, page 16, is just a reminder for third-party sick pay recap form. So if you have a third-party administrator that is involved in paying employees any sick pay amounts, and then they take and report to you amounts that you need to pay in as the employer for the employer taxes on the third-party sick pay amount, the Form 8922 is the form that will reconcile that information and report that to IRS to make sure that the W-2s and the 941s will match up properly. You can also look in Publication 15A for additional instructions information that talk about the third-party sick pay reporting and information on how that form needs to be filed. The next page, 17, is just a reminder to verify employee Social Security numbers. IRS is continuing to increase penalties for incorrect Form W-2s, and so that penalty amount is up to $260 for each incorrect W-2. And also, if there's an intentional disregard for filing W-2s, you could be penalized at $530. So make sure that the information is correct, and you can also take and verify that online with the Social Security number verification service. So you can use that. On page 18, talks about the Social Security number verification service that you can use to upload information and to verify your employee name and Social Security number information. On page 19 is just a reminder that if you used in previous years the AccuWage program to test your electronic W-2 file, that is available, but it's available as an online product. It's no longer a downloadable program, and that was no longer downloadable as of September 23, 2017. So the AccuWage program is helpful just to make sure that your file will be accepted by Social Security Administration. It doesn't necessarily look at whether the numbers are correct, but it looks at if the correct fields are filled in, number fields and letter fields and the different sizes and such, so that you can be assured that your file will be accepted by the Social Security Administration and not necessarily rejected. So that's a good suggestion to look at using the AccuWage program to verify that file. The next page, on page 20, is just a reminder. We've already gone past that deadline, but you should have reminded your employees by December 1st that if the employees need to turn in a new W-4 form, then they just need to be reminded to update that, especially if they are claiming exempt from withholding. They need to complete a new W-4 form by February 15th to keep their exempt status. There are rules for that. In order to be exempt, you have to make sure that the employee needs to make sure that they're not going to have any taxable liability for the current year, and they would not have had any tax liability in the previous year to be exempt. Next, on page 21, was the first draft dated June 5th of the 2019 W-4 form. This was going to be the new W-4 form for 2019 until they submitted this draft form for comment, and they received a lot of comment from this form. This form was basically asking for any non-wage income that's subject to withholding, such as interest and dividends. They wanted to know your itemized deductions. They wanted to know what your child tax credit amount would be. They wanted to know if you had any additional jobs and what that income was and what your spouse's income was. And so you kind of wanted a mini summarized tax return here from you to give to your employer. And I know a lot of employees were kind of, saying we're not going to give that information to the employer, and the employer doesn't need to have that information. So the IRS stepped back and said, okay, we're going to delay this form, and we're going to continue to look at that. And so for 2019, the W-4 form is on page 22 and 23, and it's going to be similar to 2018. Now, this W-4 form is not available yet, but keep looking for that online. Only new employees will need to fill this out. Existing employees will not, or any existing employees that want to change their number of allowances or their information to be withheld to calculate their tax withholdings for 2019 need to fill a new W-4 form. Personal exemptions do not exist on the 1040 return, and so that's what the challenge is right now for 2018 and continuing for 2019, is trying to determine what the right amount of tax withholdings should be. So that's why they really are recommending that the employee goes online to the tax calculator and tries to calculate what kind of tax withholdings they have, look at the tax brackets and the amounts, and to make sure that the right amount of tax is being withheld. Tax rate tables have been reduced, and so depending on how the withholding is calculating, we're finding that I guess we'll find out when we file the tax returns for this year whether the right amount of tax has been withheld or not going forward. Now, for right now, the proposed W-4 for 2020 is going to incorporate some of the things that we talked about previously from the first draft W-4 form. And so they're going to take and use the W-4 form draft and use that information as a worksheet so that your itemized deductions, your additional wages, your interest and dividends and all that is going to really kind of work to be a worksheet. And then from that information is going to determine a number that then they're going to be able to take and you're going to be able to take and put on a W-4 form and give that information to your employer for the your withholding tax amounts to withhold from employees. Right now, that proposed W-4 form for 2020 has 11 pages of instructions. So it's going to be quite detailed and a little bit complex for employees, I'm afraid. So they're still working that through, but keep information. Just keep looking for that online when the draft comes out during 2019, and we'll see what that's going to look like and how that's going to work. Especially when all the returns are filed here in the spring, and we'll see whether people owe money or get money back, and so the IRS will be looking at that. So keep an eye on the W-4 situation, and we'll work through some of the changes and challenges there. On page 25, we have the Michigan W-4 form. Again, that really hasn't changed. They're still allowing exemptions, however, the federal is not, and so they make sure that that information is filled out on the MIW-4 form for withholding. Okay, the next page is page 26, and that is your State of Michigan new hire reporting form. Again, I just remind everybody that when you hire a new employee, that this form needs to be submitted within 20 days of the hire date. This form basically is notifying the child support services that for new employees. And so if they have child support that they need to have withheld and such, this informs state of Michigan where they're working and to send the appropriate information for that. Also, government agencies must report independent contractors as new hires, and other employers may report independent contractors if they choose, but they're not required to. So again, that's just a reminder to do your new hire reporting form for new employees. The next page is on page 27, and we're talking about the Form I-9 form. The Form I-9 is used to make sure that the employee is eligible to work in the United States. Usually we talk about this I-9 form every year because it expires, and we have made it for 3 full years that the form is not expired. The previous date that it expired was back in March 31st, 2016, and then it's been a valid form throughout until this year. So this form does expire in August 31st, 2019, and so put in your notes that you'll need to be looking for the new form during 2019. Typically what they've done in the past is they just updated the expiration date on the form, and so it's the same thing. And again, your current employees do not need to fill out a new form, but any new employees that you hire around that date or after that date will need to fill out the new form that is going to be available. So watch for a new form during that time for your I-9. They might change also the documents that are available, acceptable documents, and so just keep an eye on the new updated I-9 form. Okay, the next page is page 30 is the W-9 form. Again, the W-9 is used for taxpayer identification number for independent contractors, and this is helpful to have on hand, especially when you receive mismatch notices where the name and the taxpayer identification number don't match. Then having a signed W-9 form on file can help you resolve that information and figure out whether there's a processing error, Social Security Administration or the IRS, or the IRS when they process the 1099 forms, or whether the information that's given to you is incorrect or not. So the W-9 form is important to have on file, and is important to know who to give the 1099s to. The next form on page 31 is the 941 form for 2019, and there hasn't been any changes to the 941 form, so everything is just the same as it is for 2018. Okay, page 33, I just included in here the 941X. 941X is used to correct any 941 forms, but I know all of you are, because you're attending this session and you file all of your forms correctly, don't need to use this form, so we just have it in here for information purposes only, just to review and remind others that that is the form to correct the 941X. On page 37, we have the Form W-2 for 2018. Again, the form hasn't changed for the boxes and such. It's still the same. The form, the box 9, the verification code, is started to be used in 2017. Is being used a lot more. The verification code is a 16-digit verification code that gets put in there, and for right now, it's been the National Payroll Services have been using that, and it's to help with the identity theft situation. And so by putting a 16-digit code in box 9, that 16-digit code needs to be entered in on your 1040 return when that's filed, and so that helps to again with the identity theft and make sure that the correct information is being reported to IRS. So more payroll software companies will be using that box 9, and they'll continue to use the increase of that verification code. The other reminder is just to make sure that for boxes 1, taxable federal wages, box 16, for your state taxable wages, box 18 for your local taxable wages, that typically those three boxes are going to agree unless your employee is in multiple states or in multiple local taxing localities. So make sure you understand that those wages all agree, or understand why there's any differences in any of those wages. We also too want to note on box 13, the retirement plan box. That is a box that really needs to be marked if the employee is eligible for a retirement plan and getting an employee contribution or employer contributions. And so on page 38, I have a retirement plan checkbox decision chart, and that decision chart is very helpful in knowing whether to make sure that box is marked or not marked. And you can go through the several examples there. I also have on page 38 the Form W-2 reference guide for box 12 codes. Again, some of the codes that get used quite a bit are group term life insurance with code C, your 401k plans with code D, your 403b plans, code E. We used to use code P for the excludable moving expense reimbursements, but that's only going to be for members of armed forces. Code S is used for your simple plans. Code W you're going to use for your health savings accounts, employer contributions for health savings accounts. We have code DD used for the employer-sponsored health coverage amounts to report. And there was a new code FF that was added in 2017 for your qualified small employer health reimbursement arrangements. And then there's two new codes for 2018, and those are code GG and HH. And those are for your qualified equity grants that need to be reported. Those are the box 12 codes. Just a reminder to look in the W-2 instructions if you need more information regarding those box 12 codes and what needs to be reported. The next page, on page 39, is the W-3, which is a transmittal form for your W-2s. Again, just a reminder that the W-2s do need to be filed by January 31st, 2019. If you have more than 250 W-2s, those need to be filed electronically. Otherwise, you can, if you have less than 250, then you can file electronically as well, but you are required to file your W-2s electronically if you have over 250. The W-3 form on the IRS website, if you search for it, it will come up with a 2019 W-3 form. So just be aware of the dates, your form dates and such. Make sure you're using a 2018 W-3 form. The next page is on page 40, and that's talking about the 1099 miscellaneous income form, the 1099 MISC. And just a reminder that if you have any 1099 miscellaneous forms that have a box 7, the non-employee compensation box, then those 1099s are due by January 31st, 2019. The amounts in box 7, 1099 need to be more than $600. If they're less than $600, then you do not need to report those amounts. But the amount in box 7, if you have an independent contractor that's earned more than $600, then that needs to be reported in box 7. You do need to be aware of that because this Form 1099 miscellaneous has two due dates. So the box 7 due date of January 31st, 2019. And then the other boxes for like rent, royalty, other income, those boxes, those are all due February 28th, 2019. So we have two due dates. A lot of you will probably just do all your 1099s by January 31st and be done with it, and that's highly suggested. But be careful that you do not file, if you file your miscellaneous 1099 box 7 late after the due date with other 1099 miscellaneous forms that would have, rents or royalties, for example, then you could be penalized on all of those forms because that 1099 box 7 is included in that batch. You could be penalized on all of the 1099 forms that were filed, even though the other 1099 forms were filed by the due date of February 28th. So you need to file different batches if that's going to happen to isolate the box 7 1099s. And also what's coming down the road is going to be a new 1099 form, and this is going to be a 1099 NEC. And this is going to help resolve this situation, but it won't be available until either the 2019 or 2020. It's being worked on right now, but the 1099 NEC will basically just have, it'll look like exactly like the 1099 MISC, but it's only going to have box 7 on that form. And so that's, again, to help resolve this due date issue, and so that the 1099 NEC will be due January 31st, and then the 1099 MISC can then be due the February 28th, 2019. So there are some issues with that. Just be aware and try and follow the due dates of the different box numbers on the 1099 miscellaneous for 2018, and then look for that new 1099 NEC form that will be coming out either 2019 or 2020. So on page 41 is the 1096. The 1096 is your transmittal form for your 1099s, as well as like your W-2G and all your other 1099 interest, your 1099-R, and other 1099s that are all marked there. So again, my suggestion I'm saying is that if you're filing a 1099 miscellaneous box 7 late, file those with a separate 1096. They'll help with the penalty calculations and such, and then file your other 1099s with another 1096 to make sure that those are all batched properly and can be filed. Again, if you have more than 250 1099s, you will need to file those electronically as well. Page 42 is the Form W-2G. Again, a lot of nonprofit organizations have different prizes, awards, contests to raise money, and so this is used to report those prizes or awards and the amount. So just a reminder of the W-2G that is available. On page 43 and 44 is the state unemployment return form. It's required to be filed electronically, and it has for the last couple of years. So again, it's just a reminder of the state of Michigan unemployment form. Also about state unemployment reform, the wage limit is $9,000, so you're paying state unemployment tax up to $9,000. If you have a balance due for more than $25, then the state unemployment wage base will be moved up to $9,500. So you'll have to pay unemployment taxes on your employees at the wage base of $9,500 if you have a balance due of more than $25 of your unemployment state of Michigan unemployment account. Page 46 is again just a reminder for those businesses that have a 50 or more full-time equivalents for employees. You need to file a 1094C and the 1095C and report the health insurance information on those forms for those employees. So 1094C and 1095C, again, it's been this way for the last couple of years. There's been no changes, there's no been updates, and we're just kind of waiting for something to happen on those forms. On page 47, just wanted to let you know about the Michigan paid sick pay, or the paid sick leave law that is out there, that has been going through the House and the Senate at the state of Michigan, and they've been revising that. And so there is updates regarding the paid sick leave law that's out there. It has not been signed into law yet, but you're going to want to make sure that you are aware of it and you understand it. And the act officially takes effect March 2019, and it's probably going to require some of your HR handbook things to be updated, as well as any, how you're going to track this information in your payroll software, or how this is all going to work. So make sure that you're aware of the new Michigan sick leave law and watch for that. Again, like I said, it hasn't been signed yet. There's been some updates going on, and you're going to need to just keep an eye on that. There's also, if you're an employer in other states, there's additional states that have also enacted a paid sick leave law, so you're going to need to keep track in those states what's going on as well. Some miscellaneous items that I have that aren't in your book there that you just need to be aware of. If you're an employer in the city of East Lansing, or you have employees that are working in the city of East Lansing, they have a new income tax, and that starts January 1st, 2019. So that's going to be, the income tax is very similar to the city of Lansing, city of Grand Rapids, city of Detroit. So it's all, the ordinance is still the same as that, as those cities. And so just be aware of the East Lansing income tax, new tax. Also, the Department of Labor has still been looking at the exempt, non-exempt overtime issue. And again, that has not been updated yet. They're looking again at March 2019, possibly. So keep an eye on the Department of Labor and that situation coming up with the exempt, non-exempt overtime pay changes possibly there. The federal unemployment form 940. Again, there's only the Virgin Islands is the only credit reduction state. All the other states have paid back their amount due. California was the other one that was out there. They have paid back the loan amounts. And so the Virgin Islands is only a credit reduction state. All the other states are fine or paid up, and that's good there. So that, I believe, is the information that I have for you for this time. And anyways, there's a few changes going on, but I think you all know where to find the information, and to be diligent and review instructions, and to look at the new updated forms and such like that. So thank you. Have a good 2018 year end, and look forward into 2019 and prepare there as well, and have a good new year. Thank you.